Right. All right, all right. Welcome back, guys. We got another Doom of Fools podcast. We have statistically the best CDH player in the world, Lunar Satellite. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How you doing
The
today?
energy's a little high. This is our second podcast. We're not going to talk about the other one.
I mean, it was still a good show. It just
Good
the title's
podcast.
funny to look back on.
Nadu's here to stay. No,
The
it's
title
not.
aged poorly. Yeah.
You had to rub it in my face a little bit. Guys, go check it out. I'm gonna put the link under here. But let's talk about it. Since it's a little last pod's a little null and void, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got into CDH?
Yeah. If you want the full breakdown story of how I got into Magic, go watch the last podcast. We spent like a full 20 minutes on that. I don't think we'll do all of that again.
No,
So
no,
just go
yeah.
there for the full story. But yeah, I mean, got into Magic sparingly playing throughout my younger years, like once every few years, somehow coming into contact with the cards, getting into casual Magic really, really heavily because of COVID. Love casual Magic, still have 30 casual decks in this drawer right next to me. And then the entire time people were telling me, "Hey man, you seem like you know what you're doing. You should try CDH." And I said, "No, man, I'm not. I'm not competitive. I'm just doing this for
I'm
fun.
not competitive.
Whatever."
Lunar Satellites.
Well, like I'm competitive, but this wasn't something I viewed as a competitive outlet.
Right, me
It
too.
wasn't it wasn't in that category for me. My competition was all physical things, sports, some video games, but like
Rock climbing.
nothing that yeah. Well, rock climbing wasn't competitive for me at that time yet. That
Mm,
was more like I mean, rock climbing is a personal competition against yourself. I was never
okay.
a competitive climber or a team climber, so like I'm not at climbing competitions. I just climb for fun, and I did guide. So like I instruct people and stuff, but that's not competition style.
Okay.
My competitions were like I played rugby and I loved rugby. I did swim team, I did
Rugby.
wrestling, I did baseball, I did soccer. I get really competitive when I'm playing ping pong and stuff with people, like that kind of thing. Like that's
Ooh.
my competitive outlet. So Magic was a not how I viewed that. But then yeah, it was when I was in
And then what happened? You're the most
and
competitive player I know.
yeah. So now it's in that category for me. But it was the thing I loved about casual Magic was the entertainment of it, and it didn't get boring for me when I played specific decks. Specifically, my first ever deck, Muldrotha. Which what I loved about Muldrotha was the diversity of play lines. The games didn't feel consistent or linear. I have an elf deck. You can only do the elf thing so many times. I have an Izzet Storm deck. You can only do the Izzet Storm thing so many times. They're very consistent in what they're trying to do. And so what finally pulled the trigger for me was actually Tyler from Play to Win's video about Kinnan, where he talked about his reasons for playing and loving Kinnan in his old like Kinnan deck tech forever ago. And he said the line that the deck never gets boring for him because of the diversity of play lines, and that was the line that clicked with me. Where I said, "Fuck it, I'll try Kinnan."
Mm.
And so I printed out a. I didn't even have a color printer I could have access to in Brazil when I was living over there. So it was black and white printed proxies over basics and commons, and I tossed together a Kinnan CDH deck, and I got to play I don't know 5-ish games total when I was in Brazil in person with a squad,
Mm.
and then ended up moving down to Costa Rica, up to Costa Rica from Brazil, where I ended up with was in a bad headspace after a breakup. I had like 2 weeks with nothing to do, so I just decided to grind on the Reddit Discord for 2 straight weeks,
Oh,
and
how's
in like
that?
6 days. It was great. that was my entry to CDH in the
Reddit?
beginning of May of 2023, and then like 6 days into that, I entered Mox Masters May. Didn't do amazing in that one,
Mm.
and then 1 week later entered Chaos Treasure Series 3, which was my first top four, and that was my entry to CDH.
And here we are.
And here we are,
Yeah,
a year and a half
that's
later.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just want to dive straight into it, man. I don't know if you've said on any podcast yet, but I gotta ask you. You're the Kinnan guy, and you were smacking Winadu when I saw you at the 5K. You were number one into the final four. How are you after the bans? What's your take on the bans? We got Dockside, Nadu, Mana Crypt, and JLo. Talk to me.
So different questions there.
Yeah.
How I am after the bans? I'm fine. I
Are
am in
you?
the very fortunate. I'm in the fortunate position of I got to fall back onto Kinnan, which was like a lot of people lost their decks, and I
Darn.
feel bad for those people. And instead, my baby of a deck that I've loved since day one is now just like, oh, we're back, baby. So that made it a softer blow for me for sure.
Oh, that's
To be able to fall
hilarious.
back again. And I was pretty pissed about losing Nadu, genuinely, because I agree with the ban for Nadu from a casual perspective. when you are considering casual Magic and considering banning cards for casual, yes, Nadu's a problem. I 100% understand those
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
I have no qualms losing Nadu out of casual Magic, but from the CEDH field, if you were actually making bans purely for CDH, if we were in that world, no, I do not think Nadu should have been banned.
Well, they
I
said
think
they
it's a
didn't
very
do it for
powerful card.
CDH, so
Right, but yeah, that's my opinion on it, though, right? Like I understand
Dockside.
they say they do things not for CDH, but like, come on, they
Mana
banned Mana
Crypt,
Crypt Jewel Lotus
Dockside.
Dockside. Like,
Mana Crypt,
yeah, what do you
Dockside
mean?
are the CDH cards.
Yeah, I think trying to say that those bans have nothing to do with CDH
That's crazy.
is delusional.
I 100% agree. I don't think they went
Because
fuck the CDH players. I don't think they did that, but I definitely, after all that shit that happened, they definitely looked at it and was like, yeah, let's do it. Dockside's a problem, I understand, right? But Mana Crypt
but
was
even
our
then,
Soul Ring. Can you imagine if they banned Soul Ring for casual? The fucking world would be on fire, right?
it would. Well,
So that,
they even said it's brainstorm style Godfathered in at this point. But like, I played casual for years,
mhm.
and I can probably count the total number of times of my probably 1,000 casual games that I've seen a Mana Crypt on two hands. And the times that I saw a Mana Crypt, it was my one friend who built like the most casual thematic garbage decks you could ever imagine, where I didn't care if he had a Mana Crypt. It made no difference to those
Yeah,
games. It's not like
yeah.
he ever won them. So like Mana Crypt was not a problem in casual because I think
It's not a
the
casual
overwhelming
card.
majority of casual players
Yeah.
knew it was not a casual card, and also it was priced out of being a casual card.
Hmm.
And very similarly with Jeweled Lotus, like I would see Jeweled Lotus sometimes, and I think that there are positives to Jeweled Lotus in terms of executing your game plan, and that can be a cool thing, getting access to higher CMC commanders more efficiently. Like
Hmm.
that one a little more swingy from the casual side, again considering casual only here, and the dock side like often didn't make that much anyway. Like,
Dockside.
so yeah, it really
Or,
didn't make that much anyway. So like when you're considering casual Magic, like the only
mhm.
ban I think is correct for casual Magic was Nadu. And then if you're looking from the
Yeah.
CDH side and you're saying like, hey, CDH, we want to ban for CDH. Dockside is the only one I'm in full agreement with, I think. And Dockside is a pros and cons one where I've said Dockside should be banned for the entire time I've been in CDH, but I've really had a developed opinion about this at this point where
Hmm.
the cons of losing Dockside are yes, some decks almost die, and that's a negative for sure. Some decks
Thorvald.
lose a lot of their identity. There is a lot of lost creativity and diversity in the format in terms of the interesting Dockside lines that can be done. Those are all negatives of losing Dockside. But I think that Dockside is one of those cards that it hurts to lose right now, but will be better in the long run with it gone. And one thing I've always looked at, I'm not going to say names and stuff, but there was a group of people that did some data work about a year ago on cards where they collected game data from thousands of tournament players' games.
Hmm.
And they gave individual cards impact scores for how much they mattered in those games and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
And an average CDH card's value that was like a normal average value CDH card should have an impact score of one, and then it goes up some orders of magnitude as you go higher in numbers.
Hmm.
The top three were unsurprisingly Dockside, Rhystic, Mystic. Rhystic and Mystic were numbers 2 and 3 respectively.
Hmm.
Or I think Mystic was 2 and Rhystic was 3, and they were like numbers 11 and 13, which is wild. They were already on their own island compared to the rest of the field.
Hmm.
And then Dockside was on its own planet at 25.
Holy shit.
And being that much of an outlier is pretty drastic in terms of
Hmm.
how it affects games.
Hmm.
And I would say it's the most impactful by far out of any of the bands. And
Hmm.
now that I've been to tournaments, we can talk about the meta. Like things are more diverse, which I think is a positive. And when you look at top 16 specifically, I was talking about this with someone yesterday. Top 16s pre-ban were usually at least 8 decks out of every top 16 were Grixis X strategies. And now when you look at the like 3 or 4 tournaments of data that we have post that, we're talking 3 or 4 decks out of every top 16 are Grixis X strategies. And I think that added diversity is actually wonderful. I think that's a huge positive.
Hmm. So you think it added more diversity than it took away? Because I think like Naya, Gruul, all those crazy red decks that were played aren't really probably played anymore. But you think that we added more diversity than we took away from it?
I think it is short-sighted to assume that all of those strategies only function with Dockside, especially when you look at post ban. One of the decks that won was Rocco, You know, people
Yeah,
thought
whoa.
Rocco was dead after
Holy
it,
shit.
and
Yeah.
then you know everyone said Godo is done, and then Godo just took down SCG Con DC or whatever it was. Like
Mhm.
Red's not dead. People were, I think, short-sighted in saying like Dockside's the only thing we have, and that's not true. And the color is still fine, and still
Right.
does a lot of really cool shit.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like I think another thing is like everything is slowed down, and so many people looked at strategies and they were like they got so much slower, so now they don't work. But everything got slower, and when everything gets slower, then it's okay that you got slower because everything got slower.
That's
Like
how I
that's
feel with
you
Rogsai.
know
Yeah, Rogsai got slower, but so did everybody else.
yeah,
And I
and
think,
that's why like Roxai is still very fast
yeah,
compared to everything
I
else.
just added rituals in my deck. That's all I did. I added more mana. Like the deck is
Yeah,
literally gas, mana, outlet. It's what the deck is now. I don't play fucking Apple. I don't play One Ring. It's just all gas now. And I'm probably six wins, 8, 9 losses in the last 2 weeks I've been playing it because I'm still
dude,
learning. But
great win rate.
probably four games I just didn't count the last card for the breach line, or I didn't expect this, or I consoled it for right. So the deck is probably still top five. So I want to touch on, right, because you are the tournament guy and you've had played a tournament and you actually won last week. Blue Farm. Everyone's like, oh, TNT's the best deck. Kinnan, Blue Farm's dead now. I don't know. I think Blue Farm is still going to be good. Have you seen it in tournaments, or what do you think about
A
Blue
ton.
Farm?
A ton. I think Blue Farm's fine. So I think Blue Farm, it's a weird thing where I think Blue Farm got hit more than people think Blue Farm got hit, but Blue
Mm-hmm.
Farm is still fine. And that's for a few reasons. So Blue Farm is a deck that wins on the axis of card advantage. That's
Mm-hmm.
always been their gist.
Mm-hmm.
And what they didn't win on was the axis of mana, right? Like Kinnan's a deck that wins on the axis of mana, but then has struggles to draw cards.
Okay.
They're opposites in that regard. So
Yeah.
Blue Farm lost its best sources of mana. It lost its fast mana in Jeweled Lotus Mana Crypt, and it lost its cop out of Dockside. And Dockside was huge. The play patterns of Blue Farm are usually tutor for Rhystic Mystic, tutor for Dockside, tutor for Grand Abolisher. Like that's a normal play pattern of Blue Farm. So
Boring.
losing that mana cop out is huge. Like it
Mm-hmm.
is huge. But really, what the meta is set up for now is that card advantage is king. We're back in this
Mm-hmm.
mid-rangey, I need to draw all the cards meta, and Blue Farm is still very, very good at drawing all the cards because you
Mm-hmm.
get Esper, Rhystic, Mystic, and then Timna in the command zone, and then Crom in the command zone. Blue Farm wins on the axis of card advantage, and
Mm-hmm.
like they are set up to have such good card advantage. And so yeah, losing the mana cop out, they're still very good from the aspect of they have very, very good card advantage, and that's a great thing to do. So Blue Farm's identity as card advantage deck still gets to exist. They still
Mm-hmm.
get that, and they still get proactive win cons. They still get incredibly high card quality. What Blue Farm really lost was the turbo potential, because
Okay.
Blue Farm was a deck that could win on turn two and could win on turn three, still very consistently with the right hands, but would normally fall back into the more mid-range, control-y, opportunistic style of play.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're just priced into being the mid-range, control-y, opportunistic style of play much more often. You know,
Mm.
they are significantly less likely to have a turbo hand. So when I see Blue Farm at the table now, I'm not worried about them winning turn two. I expect them to try and develop Rhystic Timna rather than just like shoot a Breach Noswin.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Freedom Waffle, and he said the same thing. And I'm like, do you just cut Adnos and go straight control? He's like, no chance. We're just not winning
No.
as fast as we want to. And
Yeah.
also, what's the best thing Blue Farm is adjusting to the meta. Now, nobody can just dockside and win now. And Blue Farm's fine. Blue Farm just sits back more. And Crom's probably irrelevant in the early games. But he's still good later, right? And it's not like it's a Vile Smasher or a Silas. Like, Crom still does work.
100%,
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly me and Waffle are in full. Me and Waffle have talked about Blue Farm quite a bit. Like we're in full agreement on exactly where it stands and what it's doing.
Yeah, I think people are crazy for blowing their Blue Farm up for a Tim Thrasios. I need to see Tim Thrasios do work before I'm
It's
like, it's
very
the best
good.
deck.
It's not the best deck, but it's very good.
Right,
Right. So
right.
every single deck in the format, you know, if you could say like here's the scale of CDH deck somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and like hypothetically here's Tim Thrasios in that scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that Tim Thrasios was ever an unplayable bad deck. It's just relative to the rest of the format, it did get better, right? And
Yeah,
so decks either got worse or got better relative to everything else. And so like
right.
Kinnan is one of those decks that people are like, oh. Like it's not like Kinnan changed it all, but Kinnan got better relative to everything else because it already is a deck that produces a lot of mana, so
Mm-hmm.
it didn't lose the mana production that everything else lost in the same way.
Mm. Yeah, and what we said kind of off air is I feel like pre-ban, Kinnan wasn't that good against the Roxai because Roxai was trying to win turn one, turn two. Now I feel like Kinnan is licking his chops at Roxai, and it's fine as long as there's not three Roxai pilots in a pod, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, it's not that I'm licking my chops at Roxai. My deck was already designed to beat Roxai.
Okay.
Like I've been playing against Roxai since I first got into online CDH on
Mm-hmm.
the Play to Win Discord. Actually, when my main pod had a Roxai player, like so I probably have more games against Roxai than any other deck. And so when you look at Kinnan, it's like okay, I have 12 counter spells. I have Force of Vigor. I have Banglehorn, Wadding Cake, Glenalundra, Perplexing Chimera, Trinisphere. Like I have a lot of Roxai answers.
Ugh,
They're all like
gross.
very good against them.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this. Like now I have you, right? One of the best Kinnan pilots. So Kinnan was amazing, and then it kind of went down, and then Nadu got printed, and then Nadu got banned, yada yada. How come Kinnan, we talked about it off air, how come people like you and Ian fucking do so much work with it, but the average player can't get over that hump? What, like, the deck is good. They're using your deck list. Like, I just don't understand why it's not translating.
So Kinnan is the most flexible deck in the format. It's the most
Mm-hmm.
pivotal deck in the format because
Mm-hmm.
it is the only deck in the format that can truly play as a turbo deck, mid-range deck, and a stacks deck, all in cohesion with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very contextual in what you're doing. So like I have people message me all the time. They're like, okay, like I'm able to do this for this amount of mana. Like, should I do this here? Do I get this creature? And I'm like, that is so based on board state and cards in hand and what you know and like the players and everything. Every single decision you make in Kinnan is contextual.
Is it?
um, yeah, everything is really, really contextual, and so there's never just like a one right answer generically. A lot of the time, like
Yeah.
even people are like, "Oh, it's just we have access to X equals 5. We get Seaborn here." I'm like, actually, like most of the time, yes, that is definitely statistically more likely. But I've
Mm-hmm.
had games where I'm against double Roxai and I just get Wandering Archaic, like you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like that's won me the game. It's like it's all contextual based decisions, and the pilots who know the deck inside and out and can make those contextual based decisions
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who do well with Kinnan. If you can't make the contextual decisions, it's really hard. But yeah, you need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
pivot. And you need to be able to recognize like everything that's going on in the game. And very similarly to things I say about just playing control in general, because Kinnan is at its heart a control deck in my eyes, at
Mm-hmm.
least my version of it. The more knowledge you have of other people's decks, the more like wide breadth and depth of knowledge you have of CDH, the better you are at Kinnan because it just lets you make those contextual decisions better. So when newer players pick up Kinnan, even if they know Kinnan super well, you can't play Kinnan super well unless you know your opponent's deck super well.
Okay, okay, I got you. Yeah, you can't just turn your brain off, activate Kinnan turn three, and hope for the. I think that's what everybody. I have two buddies that I'm like, hey, you're in a CDH, play Kinnan. Kinnan's really good, and then we all realize, hey, it's not good in his hands because he doesn't know what I'm doing. He's just playing Kinnan. He has blinders on.
Yeah.
Right, and I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest misconception is, yeah, Kinnan's fucking amazing, but I guess those little nuances, and that's what I've learned. I Tevish Crom's my main deck. I have a slab Tevish, right? The Doom of Fools podcast, but I think Tevish Crom's kind of rough after post ban. So I sleeved up Roxai. I've been playing Roxai, and my misconception was Roxai's so easy. It's boring. It's really easy to win, dude. Exact opposite. I'm having the most fun I'm a turbo player. I'm having a lot of fun, but it is really, really hard storming off, necroing for 30, trying to win, find your window, ad nos, post ad nos. There's interaction. It's way harder than I thought. So I feel like Roxai and Kinnan are kind of like that, and but
They're very
again,
different because
yeah,
Roxai can be a shut the blinders deck. Like
it,
Roxai is.
yeah.
Sorry, one second.
Yeah, Adnos 5. I just got the best Adnos ever. Turn my brain off, win.
Well, not
Right?
even that, but like
Yeah.
Rogsai does just jam, and Rogsai is one of those decks that can really just not care about what your opponents are doing. It
Yeah.
really it's a deck that asks questions, not answers them.
Ooh,
Kinnan
yeah,
is a
yeah, I
deck
like
that
that.
answers question.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
so Rogsai is a deck that is constantly asking the same few questions, and if your opponent's gonna answer those questions, then you win the game. And so it's very much that versus
Like, what do you
Kinnan, where
mean?
one of the quotes I literally have. So like my when it was funny when you said shut the blinders because one of the lines I have in my first paragraph in the Kinnan primer is this is not a deck where you close the blinders and play solitaire with yourself to win. Sometimes you'll get the turbo hand, but not always. This is a deck that fights against the table to find the win.
Mm.
And that's the way I view Kinnan is like the
Mm.
pod composition matters. Like who you're against matters. You are fighting against the table and carving your existence into that battlefield.
Yeah.
Versus Rogsai, where I'm just saying, turn one mana, turn two necro. I have protection for it. Can you stop me on turn three?
That's the question.
That is
Okay.
the question I'm asking.
Yeah, I won last night. I won through a Ristic Study and a Mystic Remora, and I just kept I top deck a Meme Betrayal, right? And I'd access to 2 Force of Wills with the Meme Betrayal, right, in the win. But I couldn't tutor. I was doing Breach. I couldn't tutor for an LED to discard my blue cards for the Force of Will for backup. So I just kept jamming Ristic Study, Mystic Remora. I had a Darcy out, trigger, 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 y'all draw, y'all draw. They finally tried to stop my brain freeze with the Mind Break Trap. I let all that resolve, and then I go Lotus Petal, Darcy trigger, mana, Demonic Tutor. I got the Tainted Pact, and then Thoracle. After they probably have 40 cards in their hands. It was Sisay and I think a Tivit. And I was like, I have to push here because the other guy's like, dude, you're just giving him the game he passes. And I was like, I jam here and I won. And it was just like, I've never had a deck that can give somebody 40 cards and still win. Because I pack in Negation and then Breach and then this and then that. This deck is fucking crazy, bro. I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
Rogsai's fun. Rogsai is really fun. I enjoy playing Rogsai when I play it occasionally. Like then I think it's a really fun time. But it's a deck that with just my preferred style of plays, I find it, which like the actual process of going through the puzzle of when you do get to Necro or Nas and finding the line, I do find that very entertaining.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like solving that puzzle once
Oh,
you're there.
I love
But
it.
the actual process of playing the deck, I found pretty boring pretty quickly because it was a deck that was asking the same questions every time. And very similar to what I said where when I was in Casual Magic, I like Muldrotha because of the diverse lines of play.
Yeah.
Rogsai is not a deck that I feel has super diverse lines of play. It feels very consistent in the few things it's trying to accomplish. And
I'm still new to the deck.
Very, yeah, no, for sure.
I'm
for
having
sure.
fun.
But yeah,
But I get what you're saying.
the really fun part for me is when you get the 25 cards and you have to come up with a line like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't enjoy just being like I'm just jamming on turn 2 every game, or I'm playing a Ristic Study on turn 2 every game. Like I don't know. Versus like Kinnan, where I'm like, ooh, am I trying to win quick? Am I gonna card advantage here? Am I gonna stack you guys the fuck out? Like what am I gonna do? Like I think it's fun.
Yeah, I only don't have Kinnan sleeved up because I kept getting Birds of Paradise. Literally 5 activations in a row in 5 different games I got a Birds. And I was like, it's just me.
Yeah.
It's the luck. It's me.
fun.
I'm good. That's the only reason I don't have it
But
sleeved up. The deck is insane.
I wouldn't. No complaints if you hit birds. Seriously.
I know.
Because if you're so here's the thing, here's one of the mindsets that's really important for getting into Kinnan. You can't be hoping to hit a banger every time you activate Kinnan. That's not the way to view the deck because when I coach Kinnan, I explain to people like Kinnan activations should almost never be your game plan. The only time they're your game plan is one, you have nothing else going on and that's just like how the game went. But 2, when you have a Seedborn out, right? Like when you have a Seedborn out, they can become your game plan. But
game's
when
over,
you're
right?
just when you're just playing, not always. Like Seaborn usually takes a few turns. You have time to answer it most of the time.
Okay.
Like everyone always freaks out about Seaborn, but like unless you hit ringer right away, like it doesn't get out of hand that fast. Because normally in a full activation with Seedborn, when you get assuming you get 3 activations, it normally equates to 1 whiff, 1 like mana dork, and 1 decent creature is like the math out of what I normally get. So you might get like, oh cool, Wandering Cake, a Birds of Paradise, and a whiff. Like that's not immediately winning the game. It is a problem if you keep letting it going, but you have time to answer it. But in terms of how you should view Kinnan activations, is never as a game plan and instead as free value for unspent mana. Because I'm not activating Kinnan on main phase most of the time. If I'm hellbent, sure, I'll do it because there's nothing better to do.
Sphinx
But
or
assuming
something.
that I have,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but here's the thing, right? If I have like let's say I'm at 7 mana, right? And I have Swan Song in hand. I am not activating Kinnan until the end step before my turn. I'm holding up that Swan Song for the entire turn cycle. And then, because that is what I'm doing, I'm not going to tap down of interaction for a random Kinnan activation to hope for some upside. That's how you play Kinnan wrong. Because then you're just feeding into the I'm tapping down and I hope that no one can answer anything, or like that no one wins, right? So I'm holding up that Swan Song the entire turn cycle, and then on the end step before my turn, okay, I have 7 mana, I'll activate Kinnan. Oh, I hit a Birds of Paradise. Thank you for the free value.
Yeah. I didn't think of it like that because say you do use the Swan Song on something like a Rockside Tutor, and then you're like, all right, now I guess I just untap and I didn't activate. Like that just seems bad. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I guess
that's
it's
fine.
better to stop the tutor because you can keep going, right?
then you don't lose.
We don't.
So Kinnan
Yeah.
is a deck that wins the long game most of the time. Like Kinnan is a great long game deck, and so we just want to buy as many turns as possible.
Hmm.
You know, and that's a conversation I've had with some other Kinnan players who are picking up the deck recently, where they're like, "Oh, I'm just cutting like the Void Winners and the Chimeras, like the stuff that doesn't win."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "That's fine. You can be a proactive combo deck if you want to be a proactive combo deck, but like the value of these cards is they delay the game. You know, not everything you do in Kinnan has to be about winning the game because we really do dominate the value resource of turns. And so if we can play things that just make the game go more and more turns, we become more and more insurmountable. And so there's a lot of value in those cards, even though they don't win the game.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about your tournament last weekend. You said you went undefeated. Like, how did the tournament feel? How did Kinnan feel? Did you feel unstoppable? You know, kind of play by play a couple rounds.
Yeah, I was super nervous going into it.
Yeah.
Because I have been on a break from Magic, where since the tournament in Raleigh, I played SCG Con Tampa, where I got to meet you, and between Raleigh and SCG Con Tampa, I probably had 2 or 3 games of CDH total.
Not even spell table
from Magic.
Really?
No, like nothing. And then after Tampa, I played one night at the LGS. I got a few games in to just test out the new meta on Kinnan, and that was it. I really haven't played Magic the last few months. I took a break from it to focus on other things, which has been going very, very well, and like was definitely what I needed mental health wise.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, going into this event, I was super nervous for a combination of like, one, I hadn't played Kinnan in a tournament in a long time. It had been quite a while. It'd been since Cowtown.
Yeah, because you played Nadu the 5K.
Yeah, I played Nadu at everything else since. I just needed a break from everything. So I hadn't played Kinnan. I hadn't played Magic really. I knew there was going to be a lot of really good players there, and I was also just like, okay, like there's an ELO board release now where I am currently listed as #1. I'm probably also going to have a target on my back.
Yeah, you are.
There's a new meta that everyone else has played a bunch of games in, and I haven't really touched.
Right.
So I was genuinely nervous. I felt like the least comfortable I'd felt going into a tournament in a long time. And it was actually super cute. I have a new partner from the last couple months who's been really wonderful.
Dope.
And she doesn't play Magic. She knows nothing about Magic. She's just heard me talk about it and has been super, super supportive, which has been nice.
Good.
And she sent me the cutest message when I let her know why I was nervous. She was like, "Don't worry, babe. You know, like you've got the best deck in the new meta, and you created it. Like you got this." Like, it was so cute. It
You
was
got
like
the best deck, babe. What's a Kinnan?
yeah, no, but it was really cute because it was like she'd been listening to the shit I said. She'd retained it.
You give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it
dope.
was really cute. It was really cute. So that warmed my heart a little bit. And then I mean, we like didn't really play any CDH the night before the tournament. We played a couple 3-pods where I was against double Rogsai, which was just dumb and didn't really count for anything. And then I went to the tournament pretty much blind. And I was like, all right, let's see what happens.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Fuck it. And round 1 was hilarious. There was an what is it called? Something Infamous Cruel Claw. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, the Reckless guy. I had him sleeved up. He's fun.
It was a 90 land Infamous Cruel Claw deck.
Yeah, with World Fire
on the play. Yeah, on the play, it was turn 1 land LED Cruel Claw. And I told the guys, I was like, hey guys, if we just remove this Cruel Claw, we don't have to worry about this at all.
Yeah, we're good.
And I did not keep a hand with removal. I kept a very safe, almost greedy opener that was just 3 lands, Simic Signet, Basalt, Thrasios, Force of Will.
Ooh.
And I was like, I'm in second seat, and the pod is Infamous Cruel Claw, me, Sisay, and Mono Black Braids. I'm gonna jam this on turn 3 and see what happens.
Yeah, you're fine.
Didn't work because I ended up needing to to pitch my Thrasios to a Force of Will to stop a Sire of Insanity. That was unfortunate. So then I lost my way to win the game. So then I tried to play Basalt and I was like, guys, I have literally nothing in hand. All it was going to be was play Simic Signet, get 1 spin, which like I lost my way to win the game through spins. And then Kinnan got Pyroblasted, and then the board got Decree of Annihilation by Infamous Cruel Claw.
What is that?
So exile, not destroy, exile all lands, permanents, fucking hands. Like no one has a hand, no one has any permanents. It's all
what the fuck?
Everyone's top deck.
We get to draw.
So I was like, "Are we good to draw?" And the guy was like, "No, because he's on 90 land Infamous Cruel Claw, so he's drawn a land every turn.
Oh,
So he knows he wins that race." And so
yeah.
he did. He of course just we go 5 turns in a row. We're at turn 5 rotations of this because these are the fastest turns I've ever taken in CDH. We each have one land on the battlefield. And on turn 5, he gets down Cruel Claw again and then swings. And at that point, his hit is Ulamog.
Which one?
Um, the one that like destroys a couple permanents and then has Annihilator 4 and is indestructible.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, so we're like 100% cooked if this resolves.
Yeah, it's
And
over.
one of the cards that I've drawn is Pact Negation. And so I revealed a pack to the table, and I talked to the other 2 players, and I said, look, if this resolves, we're beyond cooked.
Yeah, it's
like
over.
we are absolutely cooked. So I will present the option and hope that you guys are good people that I will fall on my sword with this pact of negation and I will die because I have one land in play. And under the condition that if well I made them both show me their hands for me to do this. And
Mhm.
what was interesting is I did see non-creature counters out of Sisay and I saw a potential win line out of Mono Black Braids because he had like Vampiric Tutor and Aether Flux and like things and like a little ritual as well. So I was like, there's a small percentage chance here that them working together can get this game to a draw. And so I presented that
Hmm.
option to the table. I was like, I'll follow my sword for this pack. You guys hopefully get this game to a draw, and then instead of actually winning, just we call it a draw.
Yeah.
And they were like, bet. so
Yeah, we're
so I
dead.
packed this.
Yeah.
I packed this Ulamog. I die. The guy puts it in his graveyard, and then several turns later, as he's spinning through his deck with Gruul Claw and even gets out an Emrakul and stuff, he only has 2 cards in the library, and he goes, "Oh shit! I was supposed to shuffle in with Ulamog." And at that point, it's a missed trigger, so he didn't get to shuffle it in.
Mm.
So the game did end up going to a draw
You got
because
lucky.
of that guy drawing out. I got super lucky that that game was able to go to a draw.
Holy shit.
Um,
What a fucking deck.
round
I
Yeah,
gotta talk to that
I was
guy.
like, sure. Round 2. What was I against round 2?
You don't
Was
have to
that
do
the
a
game
total
that I was
tournament
against?
breakdown, but I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to get the
Yeah,
idea
but
of the meta.
round 2 was like what's it called? The Flash Sensei's top woman who's Jeskai. Why am I blanking on her name right now?
The new
I
one?
know her name. No, not the new one. She's the one that
Satya?
works super. No. Works with like
Elsha?
counterbalance and power balance super well. Elsha, thank you. Yeah, there was an Elsha, there was an Atraxa, there was a Mono Black Crick. I ended up mana draining a Razaketh and then tapping and winning. That was gas. I mulled a 4 and 4th seat that game.
8. Thanks for the 8 mana, pal.
I didn't even need it. I had Basalt in hand. It was irrelevant.
Oh,
But
fuck
like,
you.
yeah. So I ended up. So I mulled to 4, and my 4 I kept was land, Birds of Paradise, Spellskite, Consphinx. Where I was just like, this is my only out in 4th seed in this game. Is this game goes long, and I get down board protection, and I land a Consphinx. And we got to that position, and they did have double removal for the Consphinx, but I
Oh,
was able to politic letting me get 4 draws off of it first to like have something going on,
okay.
and then I was able to like I had Treasure Vault in hand, and then I had a Quarter Calling, so I was able to cord for Trophy Mage on an end step, and then or on top of an Oppo being done for something else because I could tap down my creatures for that one, and then get Basalt to hand, and then just untap, slam the Basalt. No one had shit for it, and Treasure Vault. That was
GG's.
fun. Yeah, it worked out. Round 3 had a Rogsai in first seat, so I told the table, I was like, "Hey guys, we really gotta be not stupid on this one. Like we really gotta not lose the game here." And I mulled to a hand that was turn 2 Trinisphere, and that was all it did. Like that was the entire purpose
Oof.
of the hand. And so I told Blue Farm in third seed, I was like, "Again, after turn 2, I got you. Like I just need you to have something for the turn 1,
Mhm.
or the turn 2 spell." And so because Roxette was on the play, I was second seed. And then yeah, when it was time to play the Trinisphere, Blue Farm was like trying to talk me out of it. He was like, "Man, you can't play that." I was like, "This is the only thing my hand does, and it is what works against Rogsai. He has mana and a Wish Claw on board. Like I'm playing this Trinisphere." And he kind of reluctantly let it go, and he was like, "Whatever, I'll see if this works out." I ended up getting very lucky on draws, where the next turn I was able to go Kinnan One Ring, and then the
Mm.
One Ring draws hit me into Basalt Tutor plus what ended up being my special tech that I added the night before the tournament on 0 games tested ever, Clever Impersonator, to copy the Wish Claw to get the outlet.
Ooh,
So that was fun.
spicy.
That was fun. And then round 4 was another Rog sign to play. This one's gas. Actually, I will say the line for this one. This was super cool. We
Mhm.
had Rog sign to play again. I was second
Mhm.
seat again. I was second seat a lot this tournament.
Mhm.
And Turn 1, I go land soaring Fellwar Stone. That's it. Turn 2, Rog Sound to play, Windfalls. I get 4 cards. Those 4 cards were Treasure Vault, Lotus Petal, Chain of Vapor, Moon Silver Key. So I do the math,
The win.
and I look at Blue Farm, and I say, I'm gonna be real. I can do something fucked up right now. Like, can show me one piece of interaction. I just cast Kinnan here and pass. And he looks at his hand and he goes, "You play your game, man." And anytime someone does that, I call their bluff on it, and I just say, "Okay, I'm going for it."
Oh, that means they don't have it.
I tap.
Yeah.
They don't have it. So I tap land Felwar Stone, play Kinnan, tap Soul Ring for 3, play Lotus Petal, use 2 of the Soul Ring mana for Moon Silver Key, crack Lotus Petal for 2 blue. Use 1 blue on Chain of Vapor, put Soul Ring back in my hand, recast Soul Ring with 1 remaining colorless. Gets me to 4 mana exactly, so now I can crack Moon Silver Key for 1, play Basalt for 3, have Infinite Colorless, slam
Treasure Vault, baby!
Exactsies mana. Yeah. So that was a turn 2 win, which was sick. On like a cool, I felt like I was playing Rogside to a Chain of Vapor shit.
Rock Kinnan, baby.
Rog Kinnan, baby. And then round 5 was a really interesting match. There was Magda, Timna Thrasios, and some other deck. I'm not sure what it was. Zur.
Hell yeah, I got Zur sleeved up.
Yeah, Zur had a Necro this whole fucking game.
Yeah.
This game ended up going to time, is what happened in the end. Where the one really funny thing that had to happen though was Timna Thrasios cast an Emrakul targeting me after. So like they'd steal my next turn because on my previous turn I had Worldly Tutored with a 1-ring draw active for Hullbreaker to try and go for a win, and they silenced, so they knew I had Hullbreaker in hand, and so I ended up having to convince the table because I had mana up. I was like, okay, Zur, I'm gonna cast this Hullbreaker Horror. I need you to go get Out of Time. Because otherwise he had to win, right? So like,
yeah, you're right.
I was like, I need you to just blow up this whole fucking board, and I'm gonna just lose my everything. Which like it got rid of everything. Like it got rid of Kinnan and Hullbreaker, like all my shit I had going on. It got rid of Tim the Thrashers. It got rid of Magna. It got rid of fucking everything.
But Out of Time on 28 counters. Game.
Yeah, no, I think it had 19. Like it had a pretty disgusting amount of counters on it. So yeah, that was an interesting game that ended up going to time. We did like play out the Emrakul turn for fun to see what he could have done with it. He would have been able to not win, but he would have been able to kill me because it would have been able to play a Mirage Mirror, turn it into Necropotence, and just pay all the life.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. I also died to a Emrakul trigger in a casual game against Waffle the night before when he played Shurkai for one game because I had Spell Skite out, so he just murdered me with my own Spell Skite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it works.
Whole priority.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny. I just lost in a tournament online. I just lost to LJ, and he commandeered my my Necropotence. He hard casted. He had Kinnan out. Hard casted Commandeer with 2 cards in hand on my Necropotence, and I was like, "God damn it, LJ!"
Oh, I love LJ, dude. LJ is always cooking with Commandeer,
he's dope,
dude.
Yep.
He commandeered my my Tezzeret at the Mox Masters Invitational last year.
Fucking bastard. He had 2 cards in hand. He had 7 mana. I thought he was going to spend Kinnan because I fucked up my Beseech turn 1. So turn 3 on the play, I just got this Necro. I win here, and he's like, Commandeer? I was like, ain't no way, bro. No way. And then he goes, Necro for 30, Born Upon a Win, and then he did some crazy-ass fucking line. But,
got him.
So that's 6.
That's hot, though.
So the top 16, how'd that go?
Top 16 was me. I was first seed overall. Going into top 16.
Cool.
I was against Rogthras going 2nd, Blue Farm going 3rd, and Sisay going 4th. This game was interesting. I ended up keeping a Ristic hand that really needed to draw land, and I didn't draw the land, so the Ristic was a turn slower than I wanted it to be. And then unfortunately, when Blue Farm, I believe they literally spent their tutor on a Bowmasters, which I think was incorrect. They should have just gotten a Ristic or Mystic, but instead they tutored for Bowmasters, which I like understand the thought process of 3 onboard decks. But so I had to force their Bowmasters, which I really didn't want to do because my board was land, birds, Bloom Tender.
Oh.
So I was like, I'm not losing.
I'm not
losing this right now. So I had to use my Force of Will on their Bowmasters, and they were pretty upset for the rest of the game that I did that. And I was like, man, I had to.
I can't lose my Bloom Tender.
Yeah, and then Rog Thras immediately tries slamming a Dosin for 3 straight turns. Um, and when you're trying to slam a Dosin for 3 straight turns, we know you have the win in hand. So we have to stop you every turn. And so we got to this interesting position of the game where like he had the Dosin in hand again because the first time I packed of negationed it and made a deal for the other players to like not win for their next turn and a half so that like I got to my turn after I paid for pack type thing. Because otherwise I was like I have so little going on here and you guys have so much. Like I can't do this in good conscience and not get that turn. So we made that deal for that to happen. The next and then after I packed it, Rock Thras cast a turn to win us, but Dosen back in hand passed. So then the following turn we know they're gonna do it again. Sisei has a silence. So then we're in the turn after that. And at this point I've drawn a few cards off Ristic and stuff, and I tell the other player, I'm like, I know Sisei has interaction. I tell him very clearly, I'm not gonna win here. I have nothing for this Dosen. The only card that I can play that I believe has a legitimate effect on what he's doing right now is this, and I toss him my Void Honor. And I say, my way to do that at this time is this, and I show him Tezzeret. And so I'm like, I promise here, I promise I will not win. I will not play an outlet. I do not have an outlet in hand right now. And he's like, okay. So I Tezzeret, Gip Assault, Void Winnower, and then 2 cards I had in hand I did not tell him about were Wandering Archaic and the Wandering.
Ooh.
But still within the lines of everything I said. And then I tap the Wandering, draw a card. So unfortunately, from a I have to be a good, honest person perspective, the card I drew was Invasion of Ikoria, which wins me the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck.
And so,
damn it, morals.
Yeah, I literally showed him the invasion as I drew it, and I said, "This is when it hurts to be a good person." But it still put me in an unbelievable position because I did still fire off the invasion, and I told him very clearly, not getting Thrasios, I'm not winning, I'm a man of my word, and just got Seaborn, which they couldn't have stopped it at that point anyway, so it didn't matter. So I got Seaborn Muse, which then let me untap and go for a win pretty quickly on another person's turn.
So you just straight up win with it on 2. Like the game's over if you get Thrasios? Is what you're saying?
I had Infinite Colorless. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I
had Basalt Axe.
Okay. Yeah, so you man your word.
So
you did Seaborn Muse, but you ended up still winning though, right? Yeah.
I ended up spinning into a Thrasios on another turn. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, I don't know, man. That's up for debate. Like I get you're the man of your word, but you're in the top 16 of a tournament.
I don't care. I do not care.
Yeah.
I have been in finals games for money where I make a deal to give me the Wish Claw so no one else has it. I'm not activating it, and I'm a man of my word. I will never activate that Wish Claw. I've never broken a deal in CDH. I've never lied in CDH, and it's gonna stay that way forever.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're the number 1 player, so I mean, yeah, you're here first, guys. I mean, is what it is, right?
Yeah, I know some people choose to lie, and when they do that, that's their call. And
yeah, well, it's not really lying because you drew the win, and that's where it's kind of weird for me. Is like, I'm with you on that, but it's like, hey, I didn't see this. I drew the win, and there's $1,000 at the boil I could win, right? But I see what you're saying.
But like the only reason that he didn't interact and let me do the Tezzeret and the Void Winner and everything was because I told him I wouldn't be winning, and like,
but you did.
I don't know. That's so shitty.
I agree.
Oh well, I happen to draw this one card. Like, no, come on, dude. Now that I've made it so you can't do anything about me, like, no, that's shitty. I don't play that way.
I agree. No, I'm definitely with you. But like when you draw the win, and I just see I can win this turn if I just do this. Like that, I'm with you 100%. But it's just I'd have to talk to myself for a second. Like, all right, self. But you won, so it's okay. But like, say you lose because you didn't win when you had the win. That's rough because we're here to win. It's a fucking tournament.
Nope.
It's not like we're playing on spell table. It's whatever. But I'm with you. You have your morals. You're the number 1 player for a reason. Now that guy doesn't hate you. Now he doesn't slander your name. Right? I'm with you. Like, man of your word. I respect it.
I will always keep my morals over money.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. You can't buy me. It doesn't matter how much money. I'm not gonna sell out. I'm with you. So what about the finals?
Finals was crazy. And I guess this will be the first time I talk about this. I will have to talk about this and apologize for this. My finals ended in a way that technically was not legal, which is funny. So it is my first tournament, my Kinnan, but it has a tiny asterisk next to it in that I did not win in a legal way, and it was entirely accidental.
Okay, as long as it's accidental, it's okay.
It was entirely accidental. It is a way that like we realized 30 minutes after the game ended, and I have 100% done this before. So like I've made this mistake in multiple tournaments for sure. Sorry, I'm just fixing here.
You're good.
So my hand, I'm on the play for the finals. It's me, TNT, Ob Nixilis, Blue Farm. I look at my first seven. It's just fucking mana, dude. It's just a shitload of mana, and I'm like, fuck it. Like I'm on the play. I'm just keeping a shitload of mana. I'm not gonna mull down to something stupid here. And so and it had a Mirage Mirror in it,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was literally just mana Mirage Mirror, which like I don't give a shit about the Mirage Mirror in that hand. It's like a dead card. I'm just like it happens to have Mirage Mirror. Turn one top deck Basalt Monolith. I'm like cool. Turn two top deck Soul Ring. I'm like, bet. So that lets me just go for it on turn two. And no one had shit except for because everyone was tapped out on my turn two. And then Blue Farm's turn one top deck was my break trap.
Mm.
So they MBT'd my Basalt, which was unfortunate.
Uh-oh.
And so then I was like, okay, that kind of sucks. Yeah, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Turn three, I ended up playing the Mirage Mirror. And then turn four, everyone's pretty much tapped down again. I have just an Arcane Signet in hand. I'm like, all right, fuck it. Like, target Wishclaw Talisman with Mirage Mirror.
Mm.
Go get Hullbreaker Horror. Win the game.
Mm.
Does anything sound weird to you about that?
Yeah, because I got it. The Mirage Mirror, I don't remember the exact text of it. The Mirage Mirror becomes a copy of the Wishclaw, so it will have the same counters, right?
It does not have counters on it because it did not enter, and Wishclaw enters with counters.
It's
And that
ETB
was a
trigger.
mistake. It's not an ETB trigger. It's an enters with.
Oh, okay.
It enters with the counters. There's no window when someone plays the Wishclaw to be like, I blow up your Wishclaw response before it gets the counters. Like it enters with the counters.
So Mirage Mirror didn't, kind of like Shifting Woodland. If I activate Shifting Woodland to get an Atraxa from my graveyard, I don't get an ETB because it's already been out.
Same thing if you target a Wishclaw Talisman with the Shifting Woodlands, it does not have any counters on it.
Correct.
So you are not able to activate it. Well, you can activate it, but you can't get
That's a weird rule, man. Nah, you won that tournament.
So
that's a weird.
It was. I'm pretty sure I've done that before. It was an honest mistake. It was literally. I mean, for one thing, after 14 hours of Magic, I was fucking beat. So like there were two judges at this table,
and nobody said anything.
No one said shit.
Does the judge say something, or did they let it go?
Yes.
If
that is a situation. 100%. That is a situation that they immediately say there is no counters on your Wishclaw. You cannot search.
Okay,
that
but
is what they should have
two
done.
judges missed it. Your opponents missed it, and you missed it.
I didn't fucking know. I mean, the other good thing that does make me feel better about it is from also talking to my opponents. They all kept weird hands and just got kind of fucked. The only one who had anything going on was Ob Nixilis. Like, they had a chance to do something. But outside of Ob Nixilis, which I kind of, like, most likely didn't answer because I had two Kinnan activations up, Blue Farm just had nothing left going on. They got completely mana screwed and couldn't do shit. And same idea with Tim and Thrasios. They just had Thrasios on board, like, absolutely nothing going on. And I was already at 15 mana. So, like, I was getting two Kinnan activations.
Did you look at your deck and look at the activations and shit and just see?
No, because I'd searched for the Hullbreaker, so I didn't know what they would have been.
Okay,
so
who knows?
But, like, realistically, I am still favored in that game. So like even if I don't win that turn on that play, I'm still favored in that game, so I feel a little better about it. It wasn't like some cheesy bullshit.
It was your game to lose.
It was my game to lose. But so yeah, what ended up happening was I won the game, super hyped, got my first Kinnan tournament win. We divvied out the prizing, we took pictures,
put your deck up, backpack on.
Yeah, everything's packed up.
Let's go to dinner.
Head judge left and is going home. We're hanging out. 30 minutes later, someone's like, "Holy shit, that wasn't legal."
Run it back. Run it back.
we joked about running it back for a minute, yeah. And then
no
we're
chance.
Like, that's fine.
We can play a regular game running it back, but it is what it is at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because everything changes. This is a new game. Because we can't play all our stuff back in our libraries. There's no way you could pull it back. But another game I'm not down with that because that changes fucking everything. Yeah, I got you. That's dope. So, that took a lot longer than I thought. So with Kinnan, does it feel like the best deck in the format going forward after that tournament?
It's hard to say, right? Because I don't think it's fair to just judge it off one pilot. Because like there's plenty of decks in history that have not been good CDH decks that like one person's really good with. You know what I mean? And like I have a lot of experience.
Kinnan's good though.
Like Kinnan is a good deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like I'm terrified of Tyler on Arkham Daxon. That doesn't mean Arkham Daxon's a dope top tier CDH deck. I'm scared of Jacob on Narset. That doesn't mean Narset's a top tier CDH deck.
No, I agree, but Kinnan is better than all of them. Kinnan has been a top 5 deck.
but my point is it a deck that everyone needs to be horrified of? No. I mean, look at
Okay.
the other tournaments that have happened. Like
Okay.
most Kinnan players are still scrubbing out. Like it's not, it's not at that
Right.
point where it's like with Nadu, bad players were doing well on Nadu because Nadu was so high floor.
Fucking
like,
busted.
you know what I mean? But like
Nadu was a
that's not
fucking
what we're experiencing
yeah.
here.
Nadu's the top 10 Magic card ever printed. Like literally the best deck ever in Modern by far. Like it was top 5 CDH deck in 2 months. So I just love
Um,
that you're like, yeah, I was pissed about Nadu, but then I quickly was like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I know.
R.I.P. my bird.
I know. But you know the bird was busted. You can't lie.
Yeah, the bird
No,
is sick.
I don't think it should have been banned in CDH, but I agree with you. In casual, how the fuck do you build Nadu? It's like 85 of the same cards. Scoot Swarm's a casual card. Lightning Greaves is a casual card. Shuko, right? You just don't play like Force of Wills and stuff, but it's still busted in casual, right?
Yeah,
I think
that card's
I think
really, really
Nadu's good in is it Legacy or Vintage? I think I saw Bashroll play Vintage. I think I don't remember.
I don't know if it's in play vintage. I know it was busted in modern.
Yeah, I don't know. That's 60 cards. So, all right, we got about 10 minutes left. So I got a couple questions here from my Discord. Do you think with the RC thing with Wizards taking over, do you think there'll be any cards removed from the ban list, or maybe add or?
It's like so hard to hypothesize what they're thinking. I know what I would like to see removed.
I think
But
J Lotus Jewel Lotus will probably come back once they
I
have
think
it.
Jewel Loader should come back. At this point, I don't really care if Mana Crypt stays gone.
Mana
'Cause
Crypt, that's my
one of the things,
baby. Come on, man.
I know. One of the things I've kind of liked is the games are more, which there's pros and cons to this, right? Depending on what type of Magic you like.
Mm.
Games are less swingy now.
Okay.
There's less like, oh, one person just had a busted start, they're the enemy. There's a lot less of that right
Turn
now.
1 Ristic Study,
Um,
turn 3 Dockside, turn your brain
right.
off, they win. I agree.
Things are much more slow to develop on a consistent pace where everyone's on a more level playing field. And
Mhm.
what that has done, in my opinion, from what I've seen looking at other tournaments and from the tournament I experienced, is people are much more willing to play decks that otherwise they would have thought they were wasting their time bringing.
Mm.
People are much more willing to bring their pet deck. Tournaments are more diverse right now. Top 16s are way more diverse right now. And
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, the tournament
Like, if you
breakdown you
look
just
at
did. Look,
if you
yeah.
look at the top 16s of the tournament I was in and the other tournaments that have happened since the banning versus the tournaments pre-ban were at least 8 decks of every tournament were Kinnan, or it's not Kinnan, Rockside Blue Farm. Like that was like 8 decks at least out of every fucking tournament.
Yeah.
And now they're talking 3 or 4 of those and then 14, 12 other decks, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's way more diverse, and I think that's a huge positive. And I think
Okay.
Dockside and Mana Crypt being gone is very helpful for that. Jewel Lotus, I think, can come back.
Yeah.
Jewel Lotus, I'm fine with returning. I like people having access to their commanders. That is the reason they build their decks at a more consistent pace. I think that's fine. You want to have your quick Talion Ob Nixilis, Urza, fucking Glarbs or whatever. Like
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I guess not really Glarb because it's 3 pips. But like yeah, that's fine. I think Jewel Lotus should come back. I hope Nadu comes back. I don't think it will, but I hope it
Nah,
does.
no chance.
and then like please unban Fast Bond. Fast
Bruh.
Bond would be so good, but not too good. Like it would be so sick. It would add a cool new element to CDH. It would add a new
I don't
whole
know,
set
man.
of combos.
I
It'd make stuff like Tatyova a viable deck. Like Fast Bond would be sick.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I think prime time would be dope as fuck in this format.
100%.
I think prime time would be amazing. Fast Spawn is broken. It goes in every single green deck, even if you're not doing
No, it
that
doesn't.
thing. It makes Bowl Citadel amazing. I don't know, man. That's an argument, but we can agree to
Fast
disagree.
Bond Citadel decks would be hot.
Fast Spawn, just go.
Fast
What
Bond.
green deck isn't playing Fast Spawn just because it's one? You know what I'm saying? Every green deck
I don't
plays
play
it
it
now.
in Kinnan. I do not put it in Kinnan.
Why not?
No.
It's extra
would I put
lands
it in
for
Kinnan?
1 mana, right? There's no
Who
downside to
gives
Fast
a
Spawn.
Shit. What do you? Yes, there is. There's a card. I have to play the card.
I-
I very rarely have more than 1 land in hand on Kinnan. I don't care about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna look at Jewel Lotus and kind of look at the recent bans and then go from there. But do you think the RC being away in Wizards, like, does that change anything for us? What do you think?
That Wizards is now.
Yeah,
the
now
RC.
they're the RC or whatever. Do you think that
Yeah.
really affects it? Because I just don't think
Yeah.
anyone's talking about it. Like, what does it really affect though? Like, besides maybe unbanning some cards, you think they're gonna make CDH their own format? What do you think?
I like to look at things in pros and cons most of the time, and I
Okay.
think that there are a lot of potential pros. One of the things that I have said would be wonderful in theory, but didn't function in practice for a long time, is CDH and casual having separate ban lists. Like that's one of those things that in a perfect world, in some magical fairyland that it could happen and everyone would understand it and be cool with it, would that be a beneficial thing? Absolutely. But it's never really felt possible because of the way everything is set up. With this hypothetical tier system they have going on, if you just say CDH is tier 4 or tier 5,
Okay.
that does create a separation of ban lists in a weird way where like you can tell people like these cards are only for the highest power level of commander. You know, they get to have them. You guys don't if you're not doing that. And I think that that's actually a potential huge positive because that's a functional way that we can do this theory. So I
Okay.
think that's a potential huge positive of it. I think the potential for unbannings is a huge positive of it. I think the downsides are Wizards is so much more likely to print cards specifically for CDH now, and they are so much more likely to try and make money off of CDH now. And there is a very strong likelihood that that type of shit ruins the format because they print stuff that's way too busted.
I love busted shit though. I mean, they just printed Nadu. Like,
Nadu was fine.
shut the fuck up.
Nadu
Nadu
was
was fine.
Nadu was fine.
That
bro.
card should have never seen the light of day. That card is fucking busted. So okay,
In
you got
CDH, it was fine.
it wasn't fine, but it wasn't bannable.
But it wasn't too good. That's the thing.
I don't
It
know,
wasn't
man.
too
That
good.
that had the
Same way-
best. It had better numbers than
same
Blue
way
Farm.
Fastball. No, it didn't. It had like the same numbers as Blue Farm.
Exactly. The best deck in 3 years, Nadu in 2 months, had the same stats as the best deck. But I agree.
Right. So why should one of them be banned and not the other one?
I agree. I don't think it should be banned, but I don't think it's fine
Yeah.
in any way. I don't like your argument.
Yeah.
It's okay. No.
My threshold is no. My threshold is if it's not suddenly the best thing that's ever happened to the format, then it's fine. Like if something's really good, that's okay as long as it's not too good. That's where I view fast bond. Like I think fast bond would be
Okay.
really fucking good in a lot of decks. It would lead to some busted cool combos and strategies. I think that's cool. That adds diversity to the format because fast bond's also a build around card, right? Like that's something you throw. Like now there's a reason to do a green Citadel deck. Like that exists because of fast bond now. That's a reason because now you never whiff. You don't have to go for Sensei Stop. You just have to
Yeah.
go for fast bond.
You're just flirting with that line though of busted CDH to too busted to yeah. So you think if CDH
But
was its own format, unban those cards, unban Nadu, and it's
Yes.
fine.
Because
Yeah.
if you just put fast bond in tier 4, tier 5, whatever the highest tier is, you don't have to care about it. Like it's not affecting casual. So it's just CDH has access to those because it's not too much of a problem there.
Yeah.
The same way Nadu's not a problem in Legacy. Nadu's legal in Legacy. Same idea.
Yeah. But
Just
it's
because
probably
banned in one place doesn't mean it should be banned everywhere.
yeah, but it's probably going to be 6 months a year past that, right? Because after this banning Dockside, Mana Curve, Jewel Lotus, Nadu, that just turned the meta on its head, right? So now I don't feel like they have to do any of that anytime soon. We don't even know what the meta looks like, really.
I think it's a waste of time to try and predict what Wizards is gonna do. like,
Okay.
I'm not gonna bother.
I agree. I agree. So, okay, let's talk about tournaments. In 2024, you got a 55.09% win rate and then almost a 93% conversion rate. Holy shit. 93% of the time you're going to top 16. That's fucking wild. So kudos to you. Let's talk about it. I have some friends. We're going to the Boil. We're trying to get into tournaments. Is there any advice or anything you tell people like me or people like us to go over that hump or any slight advantage we can get from one of the best players?
I mean, I think you just play like you practice. Has always been the best thing. They talk about it's a psychological term. I forget exactly the exact terminology for it, but pretty much it's if you chew peppermint gum while you study, then you should chew peppermint gum while you take the test, right? Like having that consistency actually makes you do better, and I think that CDH functions in a very similar way where I have a very casual mindset when I go in and play CDH of like a lot of joking around and like shooting the shit and having a good time, and I try to keep it low stress when I can. Obviously some games do get just like intense and stressful because that's how some games go. But I think trying to play your tournament games in a very similar vibe to how you're used to playing Magic will always just make you more comfortable and you'll do better in those situations.
Okay, so how do you prepare for a tournament? Are you going to the Boil?
Yeah, I'll be the boy.
Okay, bet. So how do you prepare for, 300 people? Like, do you just play? You have a lot more experience than like I would, right? Like if you were me,
Yeah.
how do you prepare for something like that? Do you just play as much as you possibly can?
It's a little weird right now because obviously I haven't been playing Magic these last couple of months.
Yeah.
So not what I've currently been doing, but looking back at what I used to do, Yeah, I mean, playing a lot of Magic will make you better at Magic. Experience will always help. Playing against more different decks, playing against lots of different strategies, and then also playing more different decks will help you a lot as well.
Hmm.
Just having that more diverse knowledge about the meta is really really helpful because
Hmm.
it's really good to be able to sit down at a random pod and understand the pod composition very very well and like
Hmm.
understand what everyone is doing. And then also if you see a deck that you aren't used to playing, because you if you have a lot of experience with CDH, you can kind of quickly figure out what they're probably trying to do,
Hmm.
and then that lets you make correct decisions.
Because the Boyle probably is going to be an open meta. Like you're gonna have your
Yeah,
Oxide, you're
it'll
gonna
be
have your
pretty open.
Kinnan, you're gonna have your Blue Farms, but I think it's gonna be more diverse than it's ever been, like you said earlier. Like, how the fuck do
100%.
I prepare for an open meta? I don't know.
Right, so that's where, like, I think one of the best ways to prepare for an open meta is not to play against your play group. I think it's actually very, very helpful to jump on stuff like random discords and play a bunch of random games, a bunch of random people, and play against good players, bad players, everything. Like have that diversity.
Okay.
That's another thing that you see. Actually, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Is players who only practice with other top tier players sometimes struggle in pods that have less experienced players because
The first couple rounds of the Swiss. Yeah.
they just have very different threat assessment, and if you're not used to dealing with that type of threat assessment and communicating with people who have that kind of mindset, it actually can be a hindrance to you, because
Mm.
then you just don't really know how to handle the situation. So like playing against players of all skill levels and all types of decks and a lot of different people, and just like that type of diversity is really the best practice for open meta tournament play in my experience.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely agree. Like with me, I felt like I was doing good. I was great, but then I would like draw the first round and then lose. So now I'm 0-1-1. And then you get down in those nitty gritty stacks pods with players that don't have a lot
Yeah.
of experience. And I've done better against better players. Like I beat Comedian in a tournament before. I've done good against that. But those pods are like, how do you get out of that fucking hole? Right.
It can be rough. It can be rough.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're against players that don't have good threat assessment, then sometimes shit's just out of your control.
Hmm.
Those are the pods where someone's just like, I don't like Kinnan, so I'm gonna kill Kinnan for no reason. I'm like, he has a deterministic combo on board with a creature you could swords instead, and they're like, no, I'm gonna kill Kinnan, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
And
okay.
that's another common misconception. That's not politics. That's not me politicking you. That is me giving you a fact. I will show you my hand. I'm not doing anything just because I'm mooted satellite. That guy has board next. No, I don't think so. I'm telling you. Well, you're not going to play mind tricks with me. It's like I'm not. I'm telling you. Like I get that a lot. Like, hey man, attack him. He has a necropotence in play. Well, I don't think he wins
So
here.
that
Yeah, but
yeah, that happened in my top 16 game of this last event. Actually, it was going into my turn 4 when I finally had Kinnan, Ristic, Bloom Tender Birds.
mhm.
Blue Farm just swords my Kinnan. I had nothing. I was like, okay. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, you're more than welcome to do this if you want. Like, I really don't care. I'm just going to recast them. I have nothing better to do anyway. But you're
Mhm.
against Kinnan, Rog, Thras, and Sisay, 3 onboard creature combo decks. Swords is a pretty valuable piece. So you sure you want to just blow that here for value? Like,
Yeah.
and he was like, yeah, I'm going to kill your Kinnan. And I was like, okay. And then I untapped and recast Kinnan. And that was it. And funny enough,
Ugh.
if he had the swords later in the game, I wouldn't have been able to win. So
Right, right. Yeah, but you're like, what about a Valley Flood caller? What about a fucking a Sisay? What about a fucking
like there, yeah,
uh,
I don't know. Some people, it's like it kind of works for and against you. There's pros and cons, right? Because if
mhm.
they blow their onboard creature interaction on my Kinnan early and I don't give a shit about it, then they don't have it later when I want to win. And so that's a pro to them
Mhm.
doing that. So that's why I'm not super worried when people just kill my Kinnan. But yeah, specifically when I'm in a pod like, oh, Kinnan Rock Thrash Sisse, I'm like, brother, like you might really need that soon. Like
All right. Well, that's why Kinnan's so busted. It's 2 mana.
yeah, super cheap.
Okay. Or go ahead and blow up my cannon in my main phase. Float all the mana, cast cannon again. Good job.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got you. So, last thing, moving forward, what do you think the meta is going to be like the next few months? Did the meta get a lot slower? Is it just going to be a
Definitely.
bunch of Sans red decks? What do you think?
I mean, red is still very good. The most powerful win condition in CDH is still Underworld
I
Breach,
agree.
like bar none.
I
Red is still
100% agree.
fantastic. Like red, it still gives you access to so much. You get Deflecting Swat, you get Wheel of Fortune, you get Jessica's Will, you get Underworld Breach, you get
Gamble,
Gamble. Like it still gives you so much.
breach.
So no, I don't think it's going to be a Sans red meta. But do I think red's share of the meta went down, yeah. I mean, you
Yeah,
lost Dockside. Like, of course, it's
yeah.
gonna have a slightly lower
Green's
share
better.
overall. Green got way better, which is fucking beautiful. It's what I've dreamed of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a more slower incremental meta. That's what it felt like. Which, when you're playing a mid-range control deck that wants the game to go long, I'm pretty okay with that. Kind of dig it.
So spoil alert, you're bringing Ken into the boil. Got it.
Oh fuck yeah! I
Obvious.
honestly, dude, Waffle's Shurikai deck looks gas.
I was
I
talking
kind of
about it.
want
He's
to play.
probably gonna bring Roxai. He's talking about. He's like Shorkai's been winning a lot of games, but I'm probably gonna bring Roxai. But I'm about to
Yeah,
sleep up Shorkai. It's dope, for sure.
it looks so sick. Yeah, his is just because he didn't do any of the stuff that like old school Shurikai decks were doing of just being like really stacksy and like all that kind
Mm.
of shit. He
Emrakul.
just went full on. Yeah, like he's just like, oh no, I just have 12 card advantage engines and I'm playing proactive control with combo and I have card advantage in the command zone. It looks great.
Yeah, that's a good deck. So it's definitely gonna be a diverse meta. Then you think maybe Stacks has a little comeback. Maybe some Sithis
Oh,
decks.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anytime. Well, so one thing, especially decks like Sithis, right? Like those were decks that just couldn't exist because of Dockside.
Yeah.
Like it was just Dockside was too good
They're
because oh,
drawing
you're playing a
cards.
million
There's stacks in the
enchantments.
board, and then Dockside for 17, and you're like,
Exactly.
sorry.
And so Dockside being gone lets people play without fear, which is really really nice.
Mm.
Like now there's no reason not to play your Mox Opal on turn one. You know what I mean? Where that also slows down some Ristic study plans because one of the things I would count on, if I had a Ristic in hand, is like, oh, they're not going to play the rocks too aggressively here. They're going to wait till they matter.
Mm-hmm.
Now everyone just throws down all the rocks on turn one because there's no reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's almost a positive to some extent because
Mm-hmm.
like it's not just drawing Ristic study more cards later. So I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, like having no fear of Dockside lets a lot of other decks function in a way where not only can they play out their stuff like Sithis and like be slower in that regard, but also they don't have to have this immediate fear of something so drastic coming out of nowhere, right? Like they don't have to have this immediate fear of my opponent just has 10 mana now when they had two. That doesn't exist now. And I think that's a really
Mm.
positive thing.
Besides Roxai. Yeah.
So people can play more correctly, I would say, because they don't have to have this weird fear of just losing as much out of nowhere.
Mm.
Things are a little more telegraphed now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. You could see it coming. Like, hey guys, we know Sisei's not dead. Sisei's still good. The untapped strategy's good, but we see it. They're not. It's not just gonna cast a Dockside out of nowhere. We see them winning. They're gonna end step activate,
Yeah.
main fate activate, win.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So, I'm just so intrigued with Kinnan now. Is there any inherent like big differences you made in the list? And is there like any big strengths or weaknesses going forward with the meta
I mean,
with
my
Kinnan?
opinion on Kinnan, I think we talked about this last time, has always been Kinnan is a deck that doesn't have to adjust to the meta in terms of the cards it plays. It just has to adjust to the meta in terms of your play patterns, which is one of the things I really love about the deck. So
Right.
my list stayed identical for 8 months.
Right. Yeah.
From the Mox Masters Invitational, where I made 5 changes going into that, like really practicing for that tournament,
Hmm.
it stayed entirely the same until SCG Con Vegas, where I added Sink into Super and cut a fetch. And then the list was the same until the bannings,
That's what I'm
where
asking. Yep.
I cut Mana Crypt and I cut Flesh Duplicate, and I
Okay.
added Polywog Prodigy and a land. And then Polywog wasn't doing it for me. A lot of people speak really highly about the card. I don't like it.
I like
So,
it.
and I want another clone effect. I like really been wanting clone effect, and then Waffle convinced me the night before on
Clever.
these like mirror made effects. So
Yeah.
then I tried one casual game with Mirror Maid when we were just doing 3-man pods. And I was like, okay, because what happened was like the first game I played turn one Fish and he went like turn two Mirror Maid, and I was like, fuck, like, that's sick. And so then I was like, okay. Then we talked about it, and I was like, wait a second, like I want this effect, I like this copy artifact, copy enchantment effect, but I also really want another clone. It's time for Clever Impersonator. Like
Yeah. I want to
the
spin
time is
into it.
nigh.
Yeah.
I want to spin to Clever Impersonator. So yeah, that's my changes right now. Is essentially Flesh Duplicate turned into Clever Impersonator and Mana Crypt turned into a land, and that's all I did. That's
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in my opinion, after talking to you, going forward the boil and then the future and then 2025, I think the better diverse your commander is in like Kinnan is can play stacks, can play control, can play turbo, a blue farm, a TNT. The better that deck is, you think it's looking good. Because Kinnan
It's
can't
not always about
adjust.
diversity. It's not always about diversity of plays. The decks that have a diversity of play lines adjust better to changes, right? And that's why like
Mhm.
Blue Farm's still a deck. That's why Kinnan's still a deck. That's why like Corvold's not really a deck anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it still can be. It still can be. But like that's why Dargo Thras isn't really a deck anymore. Like
Dargo kind of
decks
got
that
hit.
were
Yeah.
decks that were more one trick pony that were really heavily affected by this.
Right.
Those are the decks that aren't really here anymore. But there's a lot of decks that still have a lot of power in having a singular strategy,
Like I think
right?
Magda
Like
got
the way
better.
Magda, yeah, Magda weirdly got better.
It got better. My brother's a
You
big
wouldn't
Magda
expect it to
pilot, and
get
he's like,
better,
fine, no
but
dockside. Woo.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But like even you look at a deck like Talion, right? Like Talion got hurt, but Talion's strategy has always been very consistent: get down card advantage, go.
Yeah.
That I think is actually pretty significantly hurt because it really wanted card advantage on turn 2, and that's significantly harder now. So
Yeah, because your
pros
commander
and
was a
cons.
risky study. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
pros and
Yeah.
cons to all of that kind of stuff.
Atraxa, Tivit, they could got worse, but they
So
might have got better.
decks like Atraxa and Tivit already didn't want to play their commander early,
That's what comedian
so it
said.
doesn't. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. Like the correct way, you lost the Turbo Tivit option, right? It still hurts
Yeah.
to lose an option. So the same way,
Yeah.
like Blue Farm lost the like turn 2 win option, I think to an extent. Like Tivit lost the like turn 2 Tivit. Like that's not a thing anymore. They're not going land Lotus Petal, land Jewel Lotus. Like that's not happening. And then just like trust in my Tivit for advantage. That's not there.
That's fine.
But that's okay because that wasn't really their main plan anyway. It was just something they could do, but normally didn't want to do anyway. So,
But the pro of that is no one can do that now, and I'm in Esper control.
exactly, and that's where those decks are like in better shape because control decks are just like oh sick. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about dockside anymore. Like now
Yeah.
I can just really not have to worry about just losing the game out of nowhere as much.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense. I got you. So that's about all the time we have for today. I do want to talk about your YouTube channel, your podcast, Colors of a Crutch. I think it's a great listen. I'm gonna put all the links in below. You just made a video this last week. You're gonna start doing content in the future. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say? What you're gonna talk about, or anything?
First episode I think is going to be very similar to what we did here, but a little bit more of a deep dive going into the tournament I played. Probably going to have a guest for that one.
Okay.
Might be Waffle if the schedules line up because we were both at that event.
Waffle's
and then,
cool.
probably go a little deeper into the rounds and some decisions and like why we played the decks we played and the choices we made and that kind of stuff, and talk a little more deeply about the new meta in some regards.
Cool. This will
And then,
probably
yeah,
come out
discuss,
after. Yeah.
Discuss some of the yeah, it'll probably be out after this.
Mhm.
Discuss some of the bannings, that kind of stuff. But going forward, plan is to still do tournament breakdowns when I can. Talk about obviously important Magic things that happen. Like imagine if I was recording when the bans happen. Obviously, I would have an episode about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hoping to do gameplay as well is a big one. Really.
Oh, yeah.
Gameplay videos. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Sick. I'd love to. I got to jam some games with you. That's dope, man.
For sure, man.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been jamming. I've been stressing about this fucking tournament, dude. I know you're cool, calm, collected. Kennan's cool, and I'm just. A week ago, I didn't have a deck, and now I'm playing a deck that I have 10
just
games.
Told you how nervous I was going into this tournament last
You're
week.
the best player. It doesn't matter. Fucking Dale Earnhardt was always nervous before he drove on the fucking racetrack. But you're right. You're right. So
I'm gonna go vomit in this trash can and cast a basalt. Like,
I'm gonna go vomit in this trash. Good job, Wounded. Thank you. Thank you. You accidentally fucking winning. That's awesome. So that's another podcast. That's Wounded Satellite. Thanks for doing this again, man. I appreciate it. We're not gonna talk about the other one. Y'all have a good day. We're the Doom of Fools. That's Wounded Satellite. See ya.